Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. If you stick around, I've got something really cool to show you. So I grew up loving fantasy, movies, and toys. And when I was really little, the first thing I wanted to be when I grew up was a toy maker. Where's it going with that? So as a child, I never made toys. I tried out of clay and things, and that didn't really work. But growing up and realizing that you have the adult monies, I realized that I could actually make toys. Now, it ended up being a lot longer and more complicated of a process than I ever thought it was going to be, but I stuck with it for several years to the point where now I can just make toys. So through a years-long process of learning how to 3D model, 3D print, mold, use a pressure pot, cast, paint, learn articulation, I finally was able to just learn how to actually make cool toys, not only to satisfy my childhood fantasies of making toys, but also to satisfy that monkey brain moment that we all get when you just really want to point at something on a shelf and say, that's really neat. So before I reveal the figure, growing up, I loved big toys. I liked the big chunky pieces of plastic. The cave troll from Lord of the Rings, Wink from Hellboy, even though I never got that one. Realm of the Claw. I'm not expecting a lot of people to know what that is, but I liked really big toys. I know Wild Quest had some really big figures too. So when I first had the idea of making toys, the first figure I had in mind is for a later video, but the second one I had in mind was this guy right here, because he's a chunky fella. He's a big, chunky piece of toy. So this is pretty much my dream toy. He's from a movie that I've watched since I was a child. My favorite character from a film from the 80s that I grew up with, and I always wanted a toy of him because he's just the best. But now after learning how to make toys, I made him, and I want to share him with you. So the first celebrity of the channel is Ludo from Labyrinth. Now I'll get to this a little bit later here. Some of you might recognize him, some of you might not. He is a character from the 1986 movie Labyrinth, directed by Jim Henson, a movie mostly known for David Bowie, who plays the Goblin King, full of puppet goblins and all kinds of good it's one of the perfect fantasy films. So ever since watching it as a kid, I always wanted a toy of Ludo because even though he's a big scary beast, he's a gentle giant, and he becomes one of the protagonist Sarah's main companions. So a little bit about this character is, in the film, he's actually a bodysuit puppet. A puppeteer actually was inside the suit, and it was really hot and heavy, and one of their complications was getting it light enough to actually move around properly. He doesn't speak very much, but he's a lovable, gentle giant, and with the impressive and kind of random ability to call on rocks for assistance. He just does this howl, and any nearby stone or boulder comes rolling in and consciously helps him with whatever he's doing. So he doesn't come with accessory rocks. I figured anyone who would ever want to have him could just go outside and pick up their own rocks, and I didn't need to make toy rocks to go with him. But he does come with a ring, because there's a scene in the film where the main character is trying to get through a couple doors, and she plucks this door knocker off of, it's a door knocker, not a ring, off of the door, and hands it to Ludo, and him just being like this, basically like a big child, he's just playing with it and puts it in his mouth. So a few details about the figure I'll begin with is the articulated mouth. He is fully articulated. I wanted to be able to open his mouth so that people can say his main line, oh, se va fuen, se va fuen. And it's just, it helps put the door knocker in his mouth without risking snapping the door knocker or ruining his precious pearly whites. He is fully articulated. You can make him walk if you want to. Now, in order to make him stand, he does, like in the actual movie, the actual character, he kind of walks with bent knees just because of his sheer weight. Oh, how many pieces is he? 1, 2, 13, 14, 15, 5, 6, 7, 28. He's 28 pieces. It took 28 pieces to make him, not including the ring. So 29, about 30 pieces to make Ludo. So in order to make a figure, I first model the figure in ZBrush, which he was the first figure I really tried to start modeling. Now this was years ago, because I've kept, every time I've learned a new trick or a new skill, I've always went back and constantly improved them. I didn't want to finish making a figure if I knew I could make it even better. And it's reached a point where I feel like it's as good as it needs to be and as good as I could probably make it. First time I sculpted his head, the file got corrupted and I lost it, so I had to re-sculpt his head in the software, ZBrush, which I highly recommend to anybody. It's extremely user-friendly, very easy. Now, I only utilize probably 5% of that software's capability with what I'm trying to do with it. It handles a lot more, but what I needed it for was really just sculpting and STL exporting. So I sculpted his fur, his hair, which is all over him, twice, because I did it once roughly before thinking, oh yeah, that looks good, but then I realized I discovered a new process to do it, which made it look a lot better. So I had to go in and I sculpted every hair individually. He's a mixture of 2 different resins. He's not normal toy plastic. Most toys will be made out of ABS plastic, but he is made out of resin because it's a lot easier to use and I think a lot more affordable, even though it's not cheap.
It's definitely not cheap.
He's a mixture of 2 kinds of resins. One's slightly softer so that it can, bend a little bit where it needs a little bit of give, and then a secondary resin which is a lot firmer, which I use for the joints, places that have a lot of use so they don't snap. So I use 45D smooth cast, a really great resin, but you can't tell that it's resin. It feels like plastic. As far as you're concerned, it's an actual plastic toy. What else do we have here? So after you model him, you model him and then you have to slice him up and into the just separate articulated pieces, and then you have to add the chimneys for the molding and the casting, and then you 3D print him. I've been 3D printing now for 5 or 6 years, and that's also progressively gotten better as I learn more tricks to it. After you 3D print him, you clean up the pieces and then you mold them. You make them a little mold box. I like to use Mold Max 30. I've used multiple different kinds, but Mold Max 30 seems to be the best in my opinion because it's very durable. And when it comes to molding into little pieces like that, if you try to take the resin bit off, it's easy to rip little pieces of the mold off with it, and then your mold is either damaged or absolutely ruined, and you have to remold it, which is time consuming and pricey. So I use Mold Max 30, and then after that I cast it with the resin, and I dye the resin to save me a step, so that I dye the resin orange so that the little bits of joint that become revealed if you move them aren't glaring in your face because it's black or white or transparent or any other default resin color. And then I paint him, which has gone through some stages, and I'll show you. So first of all, a side note, this is what a mold looks like. It's almost as big as he is, and this mold just covers one forearm. The 2 pieces that form one forearm, that's what this is. So as you can imagine, the amount of molding I had to do for this giant figure. He's really not that big. He's only 7 inches tall, but most figures come in either the 3.5 to 4 inches or 6 inches usually. There's far bigger toys out there than he is, but most toys tend to be a little bit smaller. So as you can imagine, basically all the molds for him, I'll try to lay them out at one point, probably fill up a good portion of the table. Now he's gone through a few phases. This is the best he's ever looked. I'll put him down for now. So this is the first Ludo I made years ago, and I was really happy with him. Not, as you could probably see, not much has changed. His coloring is slightly more orange, but it's dulled out. I was really struggling to get the painting down. It's all muddy, it's blotchy. I didn't find the right paint for it. Before I got the jaw to be articulated off as a separated piece, the head was just one piece. And as I said before, a problem with molds sometimes, if it's not durable enough, if you pull a resin piece out of the mold, it can rip out some of the mold. So mold would often get stuck in his mouth, and I would accidentally pop it off, and then I can't recast that mold because then his mouth would be filled in and it would be ruined. But but otherwise, I actually think his face is probably better painted than the last one. I love his face. He's very well painted in the face area, at least. But the main problem, besides some issues with the articulation, the joints aren't very strong. His body is separated not into 2 halves, but into 2/3 and then 1/3, which that doesn't really work that great, and I don't like seeing the line across his chest. But the main problem was I cast him all entirely in black. It was the easiest thing to do. I just thought, oh well, just if I cast him in black, then I don't have to, like, the undercoating would be dark, which I want him to be slightly of a slightly darker figure. I thought it would be helpful, but no, what ended up happening was, like I mentioned before, those joint areas that are cast in color that aren't painted, when they show, it's just this striking color that's different than what he's supposed to be. I don't like seeing his dark joints, essentially. I think it looks bad. And you can't paint it because with all the moving, the paint starts to flake off and wear off, and that also starts to look bad, and it's a mess. So this Ludo was very close. He was very close. He was very good. I'm very proud of him. Very proud of Ludo, but he was wrong. He was bad. He was broken. He wasn't good enough. The second Ludo I made, the Mexican hat, the sombrero is not from the film. Oh, he's missing his tail. Oh no, he's just got his little nub. That's alright. I don't know where the tail is. God, Ludo, bend your knees. So this Ludo ended up being a problem. I didn't even end up finishing painting his feet nor his hands because I was so displeased with the paint job I did on his face. I thought, I don't know, it's like I was trying to replicate the first one, but it's like I forgot how to paint at all. So I just stopped, and I was unhappy with the splitting of the articulation still, and I cast him in black again, but tried, oh, maybe I could paint over it, and that didn't work. So this is what Mexican Ludo looks like when he's just standing up straight. He loses about an inch if he bends his knees. He's standing all right. So this Ludo made me sad because I thought this was the Ludo. I thought I finally nailed it. The paint job was really good. His fur is brighter orange than the last one because I used a different paint. Now the paint job took a lot longer because I had to do multiple coats of this orange to get it to actually pop out. And his face is really good. His jaw is articulated, but I was trying to take a little photo shoot of this Ludo, and then suddenly, oh! Just like Buzz Lightyear, his arm freaking popped off. So that told me, despite everything going right, that the articulation wasn't strong enough. That I needed to use a different resin, and that's when I started using the 305. Harder, more durable resin than this 45D, because it's not the softest, but it's soft enough that if you're bending a limb or something like that, and the joint isn't moving inside the articulation, it's just gonna rip, it's just gonna shred, and that's what it did. So poor Ludo here was perfect until he lost his arm. All right, I had to start over because my mic died. Rip the joint in half, and you delimb your prized possession. So that fucking sucked. But then ultimately, the paint job got easier with him using a different, slightly more reddish color that only required one brush on layer, saving a lot of time, and the articulation was a lot better because of the difference of resin types. So yeah, so these are my babies. These are the Ludos. It's like I got a little... This is my band. It was definitely a process getting from here to here. And it wasn't all just uphill. It was like, I started up here and then kind of downhill and then uphill. And then it had like one arm fell off and then it got good again.
Ugly knees. Poorly painted. Lack of limb. All just right.
So I mean, this is basically 5+ years in the making, and a lot of people might not think that's worth it. But if you're passionate towards something and you really want to see something, see a dream of yours manifest, even if it's just something small like making a toy, then it's worth it. It's worth all the mistakes and trials and remodeling, reprinting, remolding, recasting, repainting, reanalyzing, restructuring, everything. It's worth it because at the end of the day, if you come up with a product that you really like, then it's something to be proud of, and I'm very proud of this Ludo. Of course, I've kept them all. I keep them in a box, so they, like a box of lost puppies, but it's like a box of lost, unwanted Ludos. So one other thing I decided to do was to give the Ludo, which, fun fact by the way, growing up I thought his name was Pluto. Don't really know why, but no, his name is Ludo, which is the name of a very old board game, I believe. I decided I wanted to give him an accessory for his display, something else just to, because he's great, but it's just like one piece. I wanted him to have something. If there's something that toy collectors really understand, is that we love accessories. We love stuff to come with the toy. Like Ninja Turtles, like they just came with a bunch of crap. That's what we like. So even though I gave him his door knocker, I didn't want to give him rocks or anything. So I thought a little something that I could do is give him a card display, because I also like cards. So I made a fairy display with just a black resin cast base, and the fairies are separately printed in white resin on my 3D printer, and glittery paint for the wings. They are film accurate. At the beginning of the film, when Sarah first approaches the labyrinth, there are these rather nasty little fairies buzzing around the wall being sprayed down by a dwarf. And so I went into Photoshop and customized these Skytrain character cards, so that by the time I have a whole bunch of Labyrinth figures, and other figures as well, I could present them along with a nice character card that just adds to it. His card says he's called the Beast. A goblin at one point calls him the Beast, and that's always stuck with me for some reason. Lumbering gentle giant with the ability to call upon rocks for battle or assistance, and his quote is, "Sure, rocks friends." He is a creature of little words, but of high quality. So yeah, so that's how I built essentially my dream toy. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of effort. It was expensive, but it was worth it. And it's allowed me, basically making him has allowed me to branch off and make a whole array of other things that I'm planning on showing here on this channel. Labyrinth figures, but also things from other franchises that didn't get the merch I wanted growing up. But other original works too, original characters and stuff, and some big things like this, like big articulated figures, and other just more knick-knacky, not articulated things, and an assortment of things. So if you enjoy watching dorks make a whole bunch of nerdy stuff, then consider following the channel, giving the video a like or a comment. What do you like about it? What do you dislike? What would you change? I don't care because I like it, but I wouldn't change a thing. Now, when I display this figure, I'm going to display him alongside the other characters in his opening scene in the film. So those of you who know the film know what characters I'm talking about, but I'm going to be covering those characters that I also made in the next couple of videos. So if you like nasty little goblins, then you might want to stay tuned and watch the next video. So until then, I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next video. Stay safe, and don't forget, don't let your arms fall off.